I think this is like such an interesting topic. I was thinking about some of the projects I got involved recently, and some of the other parallels. I think the key is like the level of trust that's needed for the user to get value. What I mean by that is for a product like a Loom, a Miro, or a Slack, or a Figma, you don't require internal data upload or internal data access necessarily to get some kind of value from the product. You can start creating stuff or using the product with some test things versus for some of these products, like for example, if it's a SaaS product for finance team to see a better dashboard, or if a equivalent of HR, having like HR to hire better candidates, right? All of those almost like require internal data before the user can actually get value. And so that requires a high level of trust, hence a lot harder for a regular user, even if they're a business user, if they're not like the person who has the key to the systems, it's really hard to get value. So I think that almost like the requirement for trust is an interesting variable in that.
I'll jump in just a little bit about trust. Being that security and developer products live and breathe on trusting, not only from an API token perspective, but you have to know how are they ingesting your information if you do want to put information in. What type am I limited to in a freemium or a free version? And from my perspective, it was, and I think we see it now, it's all about testing it out and showing the proof of value ahead of time. It's a lot about specifically around this persona documentation and building the trust through content and demos. I think that's why we see such a high prevalence or dominance of devrel roles in some of these more technical products, because it's showing at the first half or at the first part, conferences, be it even on platforms like Dev2, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm building, here's what I would love to ingest or do for you. And that's where you get the community built interest then. And documentation really helps, because then it's no longer, well, who is answering my question? Well, this has already been thought of, here's how to use. And then I think that's where feature requests come in after. It's rather than here's what it is, here's what onboarding looks like, be it in a tool. Most places might not have a UI yet. It's all using a terminal or IDE. That's trust. Having that trust early on was more around the person, the team, and the problems they solved, even without a UI. I think that changed from my time in 2017 up until now, where it's shown by communities rather than a person or a product demo. So I thought, yeah.
This is super interesting, right? Like I've talked to a few folks in the cybersecurity space, and they're like, "Oh, should we try PLG?" And my intuition was, well, cybersecurity is really hard to do PLG because it requires this, access.
That barrier you were talking about, right?
Yeah. Like, have you seen like companies in cybersecurity try PLG, and how is that successful or not successful?
And I think cybersecurity, similar to like MarTech tools right now, you look at the matrix keeps on getting bigger. It depends on vertical, maybe your persona. And I'd say identity within the security space has done it well, because then you just plug into your Microsoft or your Google workspace, or even for password managers, they'll do something similar. But in terms of just an overall security tool right now, it has to be consumer first. There really isn't one where you could do a pure enterprise play without asking IT or going through a procurement cycle. When I led marketing at a cyber insurance firm, that was a different play, because then it was all about going through partners. And I saw like that was helpful because partners wanted to come, wanted to help play with our clients. So I would say maybe it's more a partner-led play. If it is a traditional application security tool, or maybe a threat intelligence tool in that case. I think I think the main question, the main answer is it always depends. If you're looking for one that has done it well, I'd say some of the password and identity management tools are the best, because and someone like me can play around with it and then invite a team. That's where that would be the more natural progression. Maybe that's similar to Loom or Grammarly. I love it so much. Hey, I'm going to invite my friend. I'm going to invite my colleague. I want to collaborate more. That becomes more of a slower progression into a larger sale. But it's, if I wanted to start a new scanning tool, you'll have to show demo to even get people on the first or second call beforehand.
That makes sense. It's like the access to personal data is lower barrier. The access to the company data is much higher barrier, and hence it depends on like what's the first step is, and like it could or could not fit the PLG.
Some people even ask me this, what type of single sign-on tool? Josh earlier, before we started this session, said it's easy with SSO, single sign-on tools like Google. You can just put it on one of my accounts, maybe a fake account or personal account. My enterprise policy won't let me do it, but at least I can seek proof of concept first. I would say that would, I always steer towards GitHub versus signing on with Amazon or Google Cloud or AWS or GCP, because that could enter a foray of different policies that you're not gonna see the value, because the things that we need you to play around with to show, you're limited to. So we always use either most developer facing or security facing tools. You'll see a demo on their site just to see, oh, this is supposed to look like this. Sign up with a sandbox account or sign up for our sandbox playground account. So you don't even have to ask for an API token yet. That's where the level of trust kind of comes into play. A little bit different. And of course, as you mentioned, personal, especially if it's a personal like fake account or mess around account, it's a much easier, a lower barrier of entry.